the new standard. As always, again, the new standard is brought to you by Lance Williams and my partner in crime, Neil Coulong. Neil could not be here with us today, but Neil is with us in spirit. Big up to Neil for holding it down when I can't do the show. So big up to Neil. We had a little bit of technical difficulties yesterday, and that's why we weren't able to do a show. But I had to come back on and do a show for the schedule release for the National Football League. Of course, we had to hit on the schedule. We had to break it down, and we've got to go into it, and we've got to check it out. Also, if you want to participate in the show, go to YouTube, do a search for the new standard and Lance Williams and Neil Coulong. Also, you can go to your local podcast or a podcast feed or a reader and do a search for the new standard and Steelers. So let's jump right in it. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to jump into when I think about the schedule, of course, there's only a couple of reasons why people care about the schedule, first of all. And one of those reasons people care about the schedule is planning trips, period. Within 5 minutes of the schedule being released, my brother hit me up saying, and big up to Ollie Howard Species, 5618, big up to Edward James Gardner. He hit me up, Steelers versus Patriots in Pittsburgh, December. What up, son? That's what he hit me with immediately. What up, son? You gonna make the trip to Pittsburgh to see your boys get cracked? That's immediately what he said. So the first thing and why the schedule is so important outside of football, because we all know football secondary. We all know that the importance of winning football games is secondary. But outside of, it's just about trips. Literally, almost all of America, or a good portion of America, waited to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, waited for the schedule to come out, and circled 2 or 3 games that they're going to travel to, particularly if you're going west, if you're going from east to west. So the other game that my brother hit me about, and yes, it's weird. My brother is a Patriot fan. I'm not going to explain it. He is a Patriot fan. And I haven't seen my brother for a few years, so it would be great to see him. And the other thing that he said in terms of a game was Vegas, Patriots, Raiders. Holla, October 16th. So the first reason why people care about the schedule is about vacations, particularly people in the East Coast. They want to come out west, be warm before a long winter. And it's also about people who have not made that trip to the Mecca to Pittsburgh to see the Steelers. It's about people who just haven't been to a pro football game. I mean, football games become vacation destinations. I mean, you plan vacations around them. That's what everybody in the country is doing right now. I mean, my wife wants to go to Las Vegas. She wants to see Usher. I'm thinking about, well, maybe you can go see Usher. I go hang out with my brother. We go see the Patriots and the Raiders. So everybody in the country right now is trying to lock in for their vacations that they're going to take. That's like that added vacation, not that summer one, but that fall vacation, particularly for the East Coast when you're trying to get warm right before it gets cold for the winter. So that's the first reason why people like the schedule. People like the schedule for games. And I appreciate the National Football League letting everybody know and in quite amount of time that that people can plan accordingly. And big up to Derpy Entertainment. And I guess he's saying, sorry for your loss, Lance, in terms of the Steelers are going to lose week one. Um, and Ali Howard Species says, let me jump into his comment. And he says, my wife making plans as soon as she saw the schedule. I'm going to have to go set up a GoFundMe to survive. And you guys can contribute by a super chat. There's a super chat feature. Make sure you like and subscribe to the program. You can hit us up in the super chat and make sure me and Neil can get together and go to a game together and do a show live on location. So I'm urging you guys to hit us up with some funds so we can go have some funds. But anyway, the other reason why people care about the schedule, of course, it's about football. Everybody looks at the schedule. They go, wow. They come out with, and I'm going to do it in this show. I'm going to come out with way, let me just say it again. Way, too early predictions. But I wanted to jump into strength of schedule. And that also gets thrown around. So right now, you're going to look on the internet. You're going to be inundated with a million articles about strength of schedule. And right now, while I'm doing the show, the Boston Celtics are tied. I hate the Celtics. I'm a Laker fan. So go Philadelphia 76ers. Big up to Joel Embiid and them boys, the city of brotherly love. And so I want to jump into strength of schedule. And strength of schedule is easily defined as the difficulty of each team's opponent as compared to another team. Now, as we've gotten more nuanced in the use of analytics in sports, there are a couple of ways to determine strength of schedule. And I have my own unique version that I use to determine strength of schedule, particularly when I'm doing my way too early predictions. So the first method is just the simple winning percentage method, where you look at your opposition's record from last year and you look at your opposition's winning percentage from that particular record. Now, when you use the traditional method of winning percentage, the Steelers have the 25th easiest schedule in the National Football League. Their opponent's record in 2022 was 134, 151, and 2. Man, there's a lot more ties. That's what I noticed too when I was doing a little bit of the research for this show. There's a lot of ties here. And before we jump into what else I want to say, again, I want to say make sure you like and subscribe to the show, The New Standard. Find us on YouTube and go to your podcast and do a search for the show and Steelers and Neil Coulong and Lance Williams. Please hit us with a like and subscribe. The hardest schedule, according to the winning percentage method, the Philadelphia Eagles. The combined record of their people that they play is 161, 123, and 4 with a winning percentage of 566. Now, I got to find the article again. I wanted to take a look at briefly what was the easiest schedule. Because the Steelers play a really easy schedule in terms of the winning percentage method, the basic traditional one. And we're going to go through each of the games, and I'm going to give you my predictions. And next week, I'm going to tease Neil's. We're going to tease it and say, make sure you tune into the program next Wednesday, because we're going to jump into Neil's predictions, and we are going to compare them with my predictions and see where, see if we're similar and where we differ. And so looking at the traditional winning percentage method, the easiest schedule in the National Football League is the Atlanta Falcons. The opposition's record was 119, 167, and 3. The opposition's or opponent's winning percentage in 2022 was 417. Now, the reason, of course, the traditional winning percentage method is pretty flawed because it's not nuanced enough to take into how you do the statistical model to factor in uh, free agency this year, the draft, other strength of schedule simulations, and so on and so forth. So when you look at the traditional winning percentage method, it's pretty faulty. Probably a fifth grader can come up with it. And I would say this, that when you look at the typical winning percentage method, I wouldn't put too much into it. I wouldn't put too much credence into it. Now, as I said before, as we've gotten more sophisticated with the use of statistics, you have a win totals method in terms of trying to predict the strength of schedule. And again, strength of schedule, the difficulty of each team's opponent as compared to another team. And the more statistical method, and the method that seems to be more spot on in terms of picking how a team is going to do, is the win totals method. And so win totals method is based on a variety of calculations, and different places have their own proprietary algorithms in which they use to come up with win totals. And so they plug all this different information into a formula and they spit out what is going to be your proposed win totals. Now, the site that I looked at, and this was a Sharp football analysis website, because the NFL's win total, and we'll jump into that one, is a little bit different from this particular website where I got this information. And the projected win totals for the Steelers are 8.6. Now, they take this projected win totals information, they run all this stuff through all these different simulations, and they use the math and the statistics to come up with what they are factoring in, and then coming up with what they think is the league's most difficult schedule. Now, according to this win share model from Sharp Football Analysis, in terms of their algorithm and how they're figuring out strength of schedule, again, the difficulty of each team's opponent as compared to another team, the Steelers' schedule ranks the 11th hardest. The hardest schedule, and Ollie Howard Species was talking about the Pats in here, is that the hardest schedule are the Eagles and the Patriots. Using the traditional winning percentage method, the Eagles have the hardest schedule, and the easiest schedule, again, is the Falcons. The hardest using this win totals method is the Patriots. The easiest schedule is the New Orleans Saints. And so if you think about it mathematically, if you got an easy schedule, your win total should go up. There's a corollary there between strength of schedule, win totals, etc. So again, the Steelers rank 11th hardest from this website is saying, and their projected win totals are 8.6. The hardest schedule are the Patriots, whose projected win totals are 7.6. The easiest are the New Orleans Saints. And because these algorithms that these websites, including the NFL, because the NFL did a similar one, I'm sure their algorithm is pretty similar, but somewhat different enough to get different results. The win totals for the Steelers were 7.5. That the over 7.5 was a plus 105, meaning you bet $100, you can get 105 if the Steelers win 8 games. I think I explained that correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong in the group chat if I explained that incorrectly. But I want to jump into the Lance Williams method of predicting the schedule, strength of schedule, predicting your record, so on and so forth. And I like to keep it very, very, very simple, stupid. KISS. Again, Make sure you like and subscribe to the program, The New Standard. Hit us with a like. Please subscribe to the show. Spread the word. Also, please subscribe to the podcast. Do a search for The New Standard and Lance Williams and Neil Coulon. I look at quarterbacks. I look at the most important position. It's called the Lance Williams Big Swa, the New Standard QB method. My basic method of picking the difficulty and strength of a schedule and how well you're going to do, win shares and all that other stuff is how hard are the quarterbacks? How good are the quarterbacks that you play against? If you're going to play against the AFC West with 4 good quarterbacks, 6 times a year, it's going to be rough, particularly if you play in the West and then maybe you play, what's another good quarterback division? Maybe the AFC East. I'm just throwing off the top of my head. You play Josh Allen, you play Tua, and you play Aaron Rodgers. You're playing at that point. You're playing like 7 or 8 very good quarterbacks. And the other thing I look at when it comes to the Lance Williams method is when it all fails, pick the team that has the better quarterback. And typically for me, I don't need advanced algorithms to do that. I could do this in my head because, I'm a Carnegie Mellon alum. I'm a Tartan, so I'm an old Rain man. Now I'm a Drizzle man because my thoughts don't come as fast. I just look at it and go, if you have the 4th best quarterback in your division, you're going to have a long-ass year. And the only way you're not going to have a long-ass year is if your quarterbacks are as good as the quarterbacks in the AFC West. I mean, that's why. And big up to Felicia. Felicia has already booked her rooms for Texas and the Raiders. See, I told you. See, I absolutely told you. Felicia was waiting for the schedule to come out, and bang, bang, bang. She got her tickets, and she's already complaining at the rec. And I'm going to give you experience, Felicia, right here. I'm going to give you some game. I live on the West Coast. I've been to like every Raider game on the West Coast, and I've watched the Steelers lose them all. I've been to Steelers versus Raider games since 1995. That's the last time I've seen the Steelers win on the West Coast against the Raiders. Because it's the Steelers, you are also going to get Steeler markup because they know, Felicia, you're going to travel, you're going to buy snacks, you're going to buy gear. They are going to kill you for those tickets. And so, I've always had to overspend, probably spend close to 30% more, for my tickets. And also, like Double H said, Raider fans hate Steeler fans. So when you couple all that together, Vegas, man, that's a hell of a trip. That's an expensive trip to go see a football game. Now, I'm going to try to do it, possibly, maybe, hopefully subsidized by the show. Hopefully, maybe. But, do what's in the kindness of your heart. But I just think what drives all this is quarterbacks. And I think it's just very tough, when you look at a schedule and, if you have the quarterback deficit in every matchup. And big up to my man V Wood. What's up, V Wood? I'm going to Pittsburgh this summer for a family reunion. I doubt if I make 2 trips to Pittsburgh. I've already made my pilgrimage to the Mecca. I've seen plenty of games in Hines and 3 Rivers. I'm not necessarily, feel like I need to go. And Double H, wow, a CMU Tartan football game? Wow. I think I never went to any CMU sports while I was there. I went to Duquesne games when they were playing against Temple and Jalen Brunson's dad, Rick Brunson, Eddie Long, and those guys, Eddie George, I think. And I might be getting the Eddie name wrong, but they played at Temple. If you're an OG, you know what I'm talking about. And Yeah, the Raider game is it. I mean, the Raider game is ridiculous. So I think a lot of this is just driven by quarterbacks. And so let me jump into the schedule. Let me jump into the first four games of the year. Steelers start out at home. If you're looking at the schedule, I'm looking at friend of the program, Steelers Wire, their image, and the team, the home teams are in black, the away teams are in gold. And so the Steelers start at home, which is great. The Steelers starting off at home with the first two home games is great. You start off at home, your first two, win your first two, you start out really well. And I think the Steelers are well positioned in the first two games of the year to start out 2-0. You play San Francisco. San Francisco, excellent defense. I still have issues. And I think this is one of the few matchups where, and slap me if you're upset about it. You can bring it up and you can be mad at me all you want. But I'm going to say this. This is going to be one of the few games where Kenny Pickett is the better starting quarterback. Yeah, I said it. And I think he's going to be better than Trey Lance or Purdy. And so I think that, especially when you look at Mike Tomlin's staff and the way they could trick it up defensively going into that first game, I think that's a tough road trip for San Francisco. I'm giving the Steelers the win in that one. Steelers Monday night against Cleveland at home. They're going to beat Cleveland. Cleveland's just not that good. That's 2-0. Then they go on the road, short week, on that Sunday to Vegas. Felicia, I want to apologize. The Steelers have not beaten the Raiders on the West Coast since I was 25 years of age. I am turning 53. It's been a long damn time. And after a short week and long travel, I'm going to hope, Felicia, that you're solid on craps or on slots and you win. But that's an L. The Monday night game, the next Sunday, they play Houston. That's another game in which I think the Steelers have the quarterback advantage over C.J. Stroud. I'm sure C.J. Stroud is probably going to be the starter. So I like the Steelers to win that game. So I think in the first four, the Steelers start out 3-1, which is a great start. Then I think the schedule starts to get a little bit tougher. After those two road games, actually, this schedule is interesting as I look at it. After those two road games, they come back home and they play Sunday against Baltimore. They typically split those games. It doesn't often happen where either team wins both. And I'm also always going to favor each home team in those matchups. So I think they drop that game against Baltimore. I think in the next week they come back out. And that's tough. Playing on Sunday, then going all the way back out to the West Coast to play the Rams. Rams are ass, though. The Rams are absolutely ass. They're not a good football team. I think they go out to the West Coast, but the West Coast trips are tough for the Steelers. I don't think the Rams are very good, but I'm going with the West Coast shenanigans, and I think that the Rams win that game. And I could go to that Rams game also because I could just stay at my mom's house because she lives very close to the stadium. So I could go to that Rams game. Maybe I'll do that. But I've always told myself that I see so many football games that my next football game is Super Bowl or bust. So up into the Rams game, I have the Steelers winning the first two, losing to the Raiders, beating Houston, losing to Baltimore, losing to the Rams. And then I have them coming back home and beating Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Green Bay. So looking at this schedule, though, and we're going to talk more about Kenny Pickett and where he ranks in these different tiers. I don't know who's playing quarterback for the Rams. And, the Steelers are fortunate enough where I think they're going to see Will Levis and Jordan Love. And I think Kenny Pickett is better than Will Levis and Jordan Love. So that's another opportunity where I think that the Steelers are going to go on a 3-game winning streak. So when you look at the first 10 games for the Steelers, I have the Steelers at 6-3. I have the Steelers at 6-3 because there's a bye in week 6. And I'm not one, and a lot of Steeler Nation is, and actually I want you guys to put it in the chat. How do you guys feel about a week 6 bye? I think that's very early, but I'm not really a bye too early bugaboo dude. I mean, you just got to manage it how you manage it. I think it's up to the staffs and the players and the coaches to manage that right. Of course, you would prefer a bye late in the year, but I'm not going to be overly upset. So I got the Steelers in the first 10 weeks, the first 9 games. I got the Steelers at 6-3. I got them again beating San Francisco. I got them beating Cleveland. I have them beating Houston. I have them losing to Baltimore and the LA Rams, and I have them beating Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Green Bay. Second half of the schedule, they start out with 2 road divisional games. Man, it is very difficult to win back-to-back divisional games unless you're really, really good. And big up to Ali Howard Species. He said the Tomlin quote, "Every bye comes at the right time." You know, you can't time it. I mean, it's so topsy-turvy in a year. You get the bye when you get the bye. And so I think the Steelers go on the road and beat the Browns. I don't think the Browns are a good football team. I'm not convinced of that offense with Deshaun Watson, how it all works with Stefanski. I'm just not convinced that Cleveland is very good. Steelers next week go on the road against Cincinnati. That's an L. I think Cincinnati's a better team. And they have an overwhelming advantage at the quarterback position because I think the advantage that Cleveland has in the quarterback position is slight. And I think that's because I think Watson is still getting acclimated to the offense. But at that time, he should feel comfortable by week 11. He'll have another offseason OTAs and all that sort. Steelers go out west again. No, actually, they come back home after the 2 road games. They play back-to-back games against Arizona, and they play against New England. I think Arizona is personally tanking to try to get the Williams kid from SC, so I'm penciling that in as a win. And I don't think New England's a good football team. They always play the Steelers tough, but I'm not a Mac Jones fan. And those weeks back-to-back as well are 2 weeks where I think the Steelers have the advantage at the quarterback position. So I'm going to pencil them as 2 wins. And so the next game is against Indianapolis. Who knows? Is Anthony Richardson going to be the quarterback for Indianapolis? I don't care. He's a physical freak, but he's a rookie. And you can't get beat by rookies. I don't care if it's on the road. I think the Steelers get that dub as well. Again, I think Kenny Pickett is the better player at the quarterback position. Unfortunately, after that Indy game, they play Cincinnati on December 23rd at the crib. I think they lose that game. I just think Cincinnati is a superior football team. They do a great job with their scheme on defense. And I just think they beat the Steelers. Then the Steelers, which is tough, which is a Saturday game, but you get a little bit of time. You get that extra Sunday, but then they go all the way back out west to play Seattle. I think they lose that game. I think they lose that game in Seattle, and the last game is against Baltimore on the road. I think they lose that game against Baltimore. And going back through it, let me flip my pick of the Baltimore game. I think they beat Baltimore at home and they split. So looking at the schedule, I've got the Steelers winning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I've got the Steelers going, and I got to say 11-6. Why do they play 17 games? Oh, I know why they play 17 games. Moolah. I hate saying 11-7. So I think the Steelers go 11-7, and I think the Steelers will be in the mix for a wild card. But again, this is early. Way too early picks. My crystal ball is still a little bit foggy. I'm excited for the Steelers schedule. Looking at the Steelers schedule, there's some tough bits. There's some tough travel. Uh, I think that Monday, playing Monday night to going to the West, I think that's tough. Um, but they're not playing a lot of good quarterbacks. I mean, you look at Purdy, you look at Watson, Jimmy Garofalo. Yeah, he's okay. You look at Houston, it's probably going to be a rookie, Lamar. The LA Rams, who knows what Stafford's going to be? Jacksonville, you're going to play against the former number one overall pick. Tennessee, who knows? Jordan Love, who knows? Watson's decent. Burrow is the truth. Arizona, who knows? Mac Jones, ass. Anthony Richardson, rookie. Joe Burrow, Seattle, I forget the Seattle quarterback's name. Rags the Riches story, signed a long deal. You guys know who I'm talking about. He's just okay at the quarterback position. He played okay against Steelers last year, but not great. And then you play Lamar. They are not playing a very tough quarterback schedule. And big up to Double H. Thank you for the contribution, my friend. And hopefully that'll get me a ticket to the Steeler game and a hot dog, maybe a brew, an icy light, a Penn Pilsner. I like the Steelers schedule. I mean, I think if the Steelers can play solid defense, I think this is a schedule they can work with. I don't see, from a quarterback perspective, anybody on this schedule to be world beaters. I mean, I think the issue with the Steelers, of course, is on the offensive side of football. But for you gamblers, before we get out of here and conclude the show, let me give you some NFL odds. So the Steelers, and you can respond in a group chat if you so desire. And I'm going to frame it as, would you put $100 on this? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ollie Howard. It's Geno Smith. It's Geno, mama, he broke my jaw. Smith QBing for Seattle. Good Rags the Riches story for Geno Smith. Geno got paid. I'm glad to see Geno persevere and become a top flight pro. So you can respond in the chat if you'd like. And I'll give you what I would do or not. I'm not telling you to gamble, obviously. I don't gamble on football, so don't. In terms of win totals, there's a plus 105 for over 7.5. I feel really good about that. I think the Steelers are going to win double-digit games this year because the schedule will allow for it, in my opinion, barring injuries. The Steelers are a plus 310 to make the playoffs, meaning if you bet 100, you get $310. I would put $100 on that too, because I got them going 11-7. I would hope that 11-7 gets you in. Plus 1,000 to win the division. I would stay away from the plus 1,000, but those are good odds. It's 10-1. You put $100 down, you get 1,000. You put 50 down, you get 500. But they ain't winning the division because they got the fourth best quarterback in the division. That ain't happening. And I dare you guys to come up with teams that won a division when their quarterback was the worst quarterback in the division. What's up, my man Claude? To win the conference, they're a plus 4,000. And to win the Super Bowl, they're a plus 6,000. A lot of things would have to change for me to give a gambling house 100 on both of those bets. But again, if you got $100 to burn and you like really long odds, hey man, throw $100 at it. Throw 50, throw 25. Because the $100 payout is 6,000, 50, 3,000, 25, 1,500. If you can get 1,500 from 25, hey man, that could be your plane ticket and your hotel room for when you go to the Super Bowl. But in looking at this Super Bowl schedule, this schedule, might have misspoke there. That was a Freudian slip there. I got a feeling Pittsburgh's going to, yeah. Strength of schedule, again, the difficulty of each team's opponents as compared to another team. Traditional method, Steelers have the 25th easiest schedule. And as I went through the schedule, you can see that schedule's light. That schedule's a little light in the ass. It ain't the hardest quarterbacks on that schedule. Now, when you look at the win totals method and the statistical algorithm type stuff that these websites do to come up with win totals and the algorithms they use for strength of schedule, the Steelers have the 11th hardest. And on that website, their win totals were projected at 8.6. So I want you guys to dig into the Steeler schedule, think about win totals, and bring all those questions to next Wednesday's program where we break down how Neil feels about the schedule. So we're going to tease it. I know what Neil picked. I know, but you don't know. And for you guys to find out, you got to tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe next week to the new standard. Happy NFL schedule day. Holla at your boy. Go Steelers.